Hello, welcome to Sip of Sunshine, the podcast bringing you chats about all things Sun parenting by Sunshine Support. Today we have our founder with us, Chrissa, and one of our amazing advocates, Nicole. We will be talking about the damages the delays in EHCPs are doing to families, sibling support, and holidays as a Sun parent. So sit back, relax, and we shall get started. Hello, Chrissa and Paul. Welcome to Sip of Sunshine. How are we today?
Oh, good. Oh, good. Cold.
Yeah, good. Yes, I've just put my heating on and I'm cursing the weather gods today because I just didn't want it to be cold. I wanted it to be a nice temperature, and that is not what has happened.
No, it's ridiculous. Just a few few centigrade. I don't know where I was going there. Just a few bits warmer. Just a little bit warmer. That's all we want. We don't need it scorching. Just not winter in the middle of May.
Yes, when I've already got out my summer wardrobe.
Yeah. Freezing.
EHCP delays. So today we're going to kick off by talking about EHCPs and the damages done by delays. For instance, there was a news story recently that we shared where one child is having to travel 47 miles just one way to school, which obviously can be very disruptive if you are a working parent or if you've got other children in the household. It's a long way.
It is. It's strange because we've got varying opinions on this, and it's not that any one of us is right or wrong. I just think it's from our personal experiences where, I'm very lucky. One of my children is within walking distance of the school that that's named on her EHCP, and that's what she needs, and that's what's most suitable, and that's great. One of my other children, I had to interview 30 or 40 schools, and she ended up 200 miles away, and so that had to be a residential provision, which she needed anyway. But that journey absolutely was one of the most traumatizing things ever, because it's 200 miles there, and you've got a lot of emotion as a parent, and then 200 miles back. That said, I didn't have to do that daily. She did reside there. And I did it every couple of weeks. But I know, Nicole, you've got a completely different experience to me.
Yeah, the delays bit, bringing it to the delays, sometimes the delays cause the schools to be further away because they don't consult in a timely manner. Schools fill up, we all know that. But also sometimes the distance is because that's the nearest appropriate school. As you said, Chrissa, it's like, where's the best school for your child? If that's where the best school is, then absolutely you want them to be at the best school. And for my child, when we were going through this, that was the situation we were in. We had 55 miles a day, one way, and he was going daily. So on some days, I was doing 220 miles in a day if I had to come home. So I'd drive him to school, potentially have to come back because one of my other children needed me for an appointment or whatever. I was lucky enough that I didn't work a standard job at the time I was studying. And then I'd have to drive back and get him because he couldn't access transport. He couldn't access a taxi, although that was available. But for me, the distance was almost not even an issue. That's where he needed to be. That was the school he needed to be at. So that's what we did. And we made it work as a family. Yes, there were lots of costs involved regarding the fact that I couldn't work, regarding that the girls needed extra childcare, regarding that I was exhausted by 6 o'clock every night. And, the idea of having a life or doing anything else was almost impossible. But for him, it was the best decision we could have made. And would I pick that school for him over the school that was 10 miles down the road? Absolutely, because he managed less than an hour a day for the 20 days, that other school, because although it was a special needs school, it wasn't set up for his needs. So it's a bit of a tricky one, I think, but it depends on your family situation. It depends on lots of things as to whether you can make that commitment. We were in a very lucky situation at that time that I could. My other daughter goes to a school that's 40 minutes away from our house. And we do that journey. So, it's, I think to me, I just jump in the car and I do it. I don't even think about it anymore. I don't even register that I'm doing it. But it is hard. And it is hard when you've also got little ones that are at a school locally and you miss out on all that other stuff.
Yeah. And I think, we talk a lot about send parent tax. This is one of those send parent taxes, because you are constantly burdened by the system. The burden is not the child. The burden is the inaccessibility of the entire system. The schools that are needed are not close enough. So, we bang on at Sunshine Support about self-care, but how on earth do you afford the time or the money for self-care when all your time and money is being spent on navigating the system? Because it's difficult enough being a parent, right? Being a parent is a tough job. And I think there's so much that we think of, and I giggle because we have this romantic view of like, we have a baby and we have a mini me and a mini you and how lovely, and in the, the most part. And then the reality kicks in, because that's not the reality. You don't go on this sort of steady track, this sort of steady trajectory from A to B, from baby to adult. It doesn't work like that. And it sort of goes all over the place. And it's tough. It's really, really tough. But you add special educational needs into the mix, and that's tougher because we're having to learn more. We're having to sort of immerse ourselves in this world that we weren't expecting, because that's not what we were expecting. It's that Welcome to Holland poem, isn't it? But then you add on the system, and it's this faceless system that costs us our health, that costs us our time, our energy, our finances, our emotions, our relationships, because whilst you're in that car going back and forth, it puts a strain on all relationships. I know it can be quite nice, though. It can be quite nice, those journeys, but on the flip side, it can put strains on things.
It's also the other things, I noticed a massive difference in my health, and we talk quite a lot about Sunshine, about, looking after yourself and health, and our work ethic is very, that we need to make sure we're looking after ourselves too. But, I was spending every day eating my lunch in a garden centre because that was the only place I could eat it. That was after the first year where I had to sit in the car park for 5 hours every day, because that's what he needed. He needed me to be right there. Once we migrated from that I could go to the garden centre 5 minutes down the road, and you're like, that's not healthy. You're picking from a very specific lunch menu every single day. It's expensive. So that was an extra, and all those things, you're like, actually. And now I look at my healthy eating and my eating strategy. I can go all day without eating, and people laugh at me and go, that's ridiculous. And I'm like, but actually I used to do it because I didn't want to eat what was there at lunchtime. Because actually I didn't want to eat yet another jacket potato or yet another kind of really whatever. And it's all those things that you don't think about. It sounds like a nice idea that you get to spend 5 hours sitting in a coffee shop every day, but it's horrendous. You don't want to be doing it. And that impact on other siblings is huge. So the delays across the EHCP system are frustrating, but I don't think the distance of a school is solely down to the delays within the process of getting EHCPs sorted. I think that's down more to, as you say, planning where the schools are, how many there are, but also down to the needs of the child, because there aren't that many very specialist schools, and somebody's always going to have to travel. It's a bit of a postcode lottery. I used to travel through 3 different counties to get him to the school we went to, because of the route I took. And it always used to make me laugh that one of the counties had the tagline, County of Opportunity. It wasn't the county he was being schooled in, is all I will say. But it just made me giggle every day as I drove through it, that was their tagline. And I'm like, but we drive through you because even that county didn't have a school that was suitable.
So let's have a little chat about the EHCP delays and how they actually do upend lives, because regardless of travel, that waiting period where they're like, oh, this will be done in this amount of time, there's strict deadlines of when they're supposed to meet, and they don't, we know that. How does that upend people's lives and add to the parent tax?
Well, I've seen so many scenarios where it's impacted not only that child that the EHCP is for, but other siblings, because other siblings then, the parent is trying to design their routine, like Nicole's just mentioned about routine and having to get the child to the school and stuff like that. They're trying to design their routine around this one particular child, hoping that they get into this particular school. There's an enormous delay or whatever. And so there's a knock-on effect then to the design of that routine. I know there was one particular family I was working with where they wanted a particular mainstream with a great resource unit, but it would take both children, but one with an EHCP into the resource unit and one without an EHCP didn't need any additional help. But they both ended up out of school because it was delayed with the first one's EHCP, and they were actually 2 school years apart. So things like that, quite frustrating. And I think the delays across the board, we're seeing children out of school. We're then seeing the Department for Education quoting, there are too many children out of school. Say it's your fault. You're delaying the process to save a couple of quid, because how many cases have we got at this time of year where the child could start now after half term, and the local authorities are saying, let's start them in September. And we're saying, no, let's get a bit of transition work done now in this summer term. And they're saying, no, because we want to save a bit of money, we'll get it done in September. Or you can see us in tribunal.
We had this the other day with a client that we were dealing with a situation, but because the child needs a very specific piece of work and they're transitioning from primary to secondary, it was, oh, well, we'll wait for secondary to start it because it's a piece of work that can take 12 weeks. It would be better. It would be better to do it all. I'm like, no, let's start it now. Then we'll take the summer off and then continue it, because at least it's starting. Oh, well, that's going to cause funding issues. Yeah, okay, it's going to cause some admin issues, but let's not delay the child just because of funding issues, because you've got a transfer who's... It's ridiculous. But it's also that kind of the delays. And we were discussing this again recently about how it's not huge to expect a case officer to contact you and say a delay has happened. Things do happen in life. We're all aware of that. Time off sick, holidays, annual leave, all those sorts of things. But does it really hurt that if you're going to miss a deadline, to let someone know? To give them a quick email? I've got another client that has been trying to get in contact with their case officer for weeks just to get a decision over funding for next year. And she's like, I just want to know where my child's going to be next year. Are we getting the additional year of college or not? And she's like, it's a really simple yes or no. It's not even about the plan being reviewed. It's not about the content. I just want a yes or no so I can plan.
Looking for expert guidance in the world of special educational needs and disabilities? Send. Sunshine Academy is your one-stop solution. Gain access to a wealth of knowledge through webinars covering topics like autism and dyslexia, along with tailored learning resources, all for just $10.99 a month. Empower yourself today with Sunshine Academy and take the first step towards a brighter future.
And we've been waiting weeks and weeks and weeks, and we're now at the point of papping them in order to get that decision. Like, it shouldn't take that.
No.
Just
Again,
communicate.
Send parent tax. You sort of, we get the label as send parents as well, as being that parent, because we whinge about stuff like this, okay? And to the non-send parent, they're like, oh God, she's off again. I can feel the eye rolls when I'm complaining about something. However, I have been in situations just recently where non-send parents have had to kick off about something, okay? Nothing to do with me. I've just observed it. And that threshold is very low. And I think to myself, we actually put up with an awful lot of send parents. The delays, it's not just about that plan and having a delay and then breaking, being unlawful. This is having a big effect on the family. If the child is left without a school, that means one parent has to stay home and look after them. And the chances are that even if they're teenagers, a parent has to stay and observe them. There's a reason they need a special educational placement, and it's not because they're following the same trajectory as a typical 12, 13, 14-year-old. So we need to be there to supervise them. I remember one of my children was out of school for 18 months, and I was lucky. I found myself lucky. I can't even believe I'm saying that, because I ran my own business so she could come into work with me and sit in my office with me. She was miserable all day. She had nothing to do. I didn't know what to do with her. But so many parents, like you said, Nicole, they're then, it's that send parent tax. I can't work because I have to do this because the system has failed, not because my child is failing, if you know what I mean.
Again, it's the number of parents I speak to on an almost weekly basis where that situation exactly has happened. They've had to give up work. And I'm then having conversations with them about access to benefits and to carers allowance. And they're like, we didn't even know these things existed because we've never had to touch on that system before. And I'm like, right, okay, and this is a gateway one, and we need to do this and we need to do that. And they're like, how do you know this? I'm like, I know it because sadly I had to learn it because that was my life. I never wanted to be a parent with benefits. I didn't believe in it. I did a lot of charity work. I did a lot of volunteer work because I always wanted to see my children, wanted my children to see me working. That was really important for me. Yeah. But I couldn't commit to a 9 to 5. I couldn't commit to those kind of hours. So it's like, how do you do that? And that impact on parents' mental health when the one thing that they've trained for, love, really get a lot of kind of pleasure out of doing is taken away as well. It completely disrupts a whole family. And the delays are just unnecessary if there was better communication.
Yeah, it becomes all consuming, doesn't it? Because you know that once you get some paperwork back or you get something back for review, that you are going to have to spend some time head down looking through that, making sure it's quantified, specified, it's all good. If you are sat waiting for that for any amount of time, you're putting off your life because you're like, oh, that could drop in tomorrow and then I'm going to have to spend 2 days dealing with that. So I'm not going to plan anything for this week. And then all of a sudden that week becomes 2 weeks, becomes 3 weeks. And if you are neurospicy yourself, like I don't do waiting very well. If I've got an appointment at 3 o'clock that afternoon, I'm going to be sat watching the clock. I will see every minute on that clock until that appointment at 3. So if you're sat waiting for something to drop through your door or for an email, it really can become all-consuming, and then it becomes isolating. And then all of a sudden you've not seen your friends for weeks. You've not contacted anyone because you've kept the phone free in case you get a phone call. And we all know how that can lead to depression and really, really awful mental health. So that's also a big part of these delays. It's not just about waiting for these things to be done so that you can pop your child off to wherever happily. It's about the aftermath of when that's all done and you look around and you've got a completely different life to what you started with.
Yeah, absolutely. Or it flips the other way and you don't know, you choose to move on and you choose to carry on, and then when the stuff does hit your inbox, you don't have time to deal with it and you miss it. And then you're the one getting the blame from the local authority going, well, you never replied to that draft or you didn't respond to that email. And you're like, no, because I actually got on with life and parenting and things. You can't win. Whichever way it falls, you can't win. And it becomes a massive issue.
Sibling support. So if we're going to move on into the next section, we'll take a little bit of an insight from what we've already said, which is sibling support. We've talked about how difficult it is having a larger family with other siblings when you are on the send parent journey, and how there's not only a send parent tax, there's also a sibling tax, because it can be so difficult to juggle having other children's needs all under the same roof.
This one's huge. And I look back at my girls, so I've got 3 children, and my eldest was our primary kind of SEN child. As it turns out, as happens with lots of families, as the years have gone on, the next one had issues which have kind of trumped the first ones, and now the third one's got a few of her own issues. And it's really hard to discover whether that's trauma or whether they're actual ASD, ADHD issues. And it's like, I don't know. She's currently not in school. She's really struggling, and school are putting pressure on me as a parent going, well, she needs to be in. You need to get her in the building. You need to do this. She needs to come in for I'm like, no, we're not doing that. I said, right now, she needs to rest and recover, and she needs to process some of the stuff that's gone on specifically in the last 18 months for her. And slowly we're seeing it. She's now at a child-led learning centre that we found and we're funding. But she loves it, and it's great, and it's working for her. And again, I'm lucky that I've got the knowledge to be able to do that and find that and to push back on school and go, hey, we're not doing that right now. She's not coming in. She's not coming in for these weekly check-ins that you want. Because that burning building analogy, I'm not putting her in that burning building. Would she have those issues if she hadn't been a send sibling? I'm not sure. But she's dealt with a lot, and it's kind of, it does impact them massively on what's going on. I know you have that, Chrissa, with your sibling.
Yeah, I've got 4, and I know at least 2 of them are significantly impacted with trauma from one of them. And it's not that one of them's fault either. My eldest, the reason that we set up Sunshine Support, as she's autistic with ADHD, PDA profile, complex trauma, and lots of things thrown in for good measure. And the system really let her down. She was out of school for a very, very long time. She hit, I don't know how many mental health lows, admitted to hospital, just so many interventions. I don't even want to talk about it because it really upsets me to talk about it. However, that meant that my second born became a protector for number 3 and 4, who were born together because they're twins. And so at the age of 3, she became a little mum. And that makes me that's my saddest part of parenting. That's my biggest regret. And there was no other way I could have done it differently. I'm preventing or trying to manage an enormous meltdown happening where I'm taking an absolute beating. Meanwhile, being supported by my husband, and then sort of making sure that we've got the 3 little ones within visual distance, but they're protecting each other. I mean, 2 of them were babies. They were like 6 months old, not even able to sit up properly yet. And my second born, very similar to one of yours, because they are like the best of friends as well, aren't they? Because they've got a similar profile where you go, you know, you can score them as beautiful, descriptive ADHDers. But then when you look at a trauma profile, you're like, yeah, that as well. And how do we unpick that? And with mine, my second born, she is an absolute force. I just love her. She's just everything. She's great. But she's so strong, so resilient, but too strong and too resilient. But you can't take her out. That's where she's safe now. She's safe as the protector. She's safe as the person that needs to be busy all the time. She fidgets, she twitches. She gets told off by one particular teacher in school all the time, and she absolutely advocates for herself. And she says things like, I'm curious as to why you've pulled me up on that. And I just think you're 12 and this is amazing that you've got these amazing skills.
But you talk about her being that protector. I look back to my youngest at the age of 2, and thank God for iPhones at that point, because at the age of 2, she could unlock my phone. She could phone her dad and say back up, and he would find my phone location and come and help us, because it normally meant that the eldest had legged it. And I remember going into primary school, we were judged because she was still in a pushchair. And everyone was like, why is she still in a pushchair? And I bought a running buggy because it looked better. And I was like, she's there because in a moment's notice, and it was done on many occasions, I could launch middle child in, the girls are only 19 months apart, I could launch middle one in, put little one on her lap and she'd hug her, and I could run after the eldest who was pelting it with no danger awareness across roads. And it was like, how do I manage that as one person with 3 children, as you say? How do you juggle it? Whilst little one's normally then phoning daddy and going back up in her own little way. And you think, oh my word, how did she do that?
Yeah.
But that's just what she learned how to do. And I watch her now with her siblings, and she's got this amazing empathetic way of understanding when they need something. We'll go into a restaurant and she'll be looking with the menu with my eldest, and she knows that he won't order it. So she'll check with him what he wants and she'll order it for him. And you just think she's got so many skills that children her age wouldn't have.
Yes.
But also she's lost an awful lot of things too. So I make a real effort to try and spend that individual time with her. It's why I love that she has a relationship with your daughter, Chrissa, because as you say, they have that kind of mutual understanding. We're not going to talk about our siblings, but we both know they're there.
Yeah.
They can just be children. But it's really hard, and it's really hard to do. And through the SEND system, I've ended up a single parent. I do blame the SEND system for quite a lot of that, because the pressure it put on us as a family. But that's really hard as well. When you're one parent, multiple children, how do you give them that time?
Yeah.
I think there's creative ways you can do it. I still have an alarm that goes off on my watch every night at 5 to 8, because I'd allocated that half an hour from 7:30 to 5 to 8 to read a bedtime story to the middle one. And everyone goes, but why the middle one? I was like, because if I couldn't get her down, I had no hope of having any time with the little one. So we used to just do it in reverse. I'd put middle child to bed first, do her stories, 5 to 8 the alarm would go off, our carer would leave because I had to pay for a carer to be able to manage bedtime. It just was what we needed.
Yeah.
Then I'd go and deal with the littlest. And it's like all those extra things that SEND packs. What other parent employs someone to work in their home when you're there, just so that you can manage bedtime? And that's like, I look back and I go, oh my God, I can't believe we did that. But that's what we had to do. That was while I was still in a relationship with a husband. You know,
Yeah.
that was the dynamic of our life, was we needed that level of support.
Do you know, it's lonely, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just lonely. Like, I was talking to someone today about the bubble that we have here at Sunshine and that we get it. Okay, so I can sit here, I understand both your experiences. They're not identical to mine, but I can understand, I can empathize, I can listen. I get it. You don't need to explain stuff. I get it. And we step outside that bubble and I realize how scary the world is. And this week I had to people outside my bubble. And I was like, what the hell? This is weird. People are so weird. Because there's just this level of connection that we have, but it's still so incredibly lonely.
It's when you, I think I love the fact that we do most of our meetings on Teams, and I meet with a client and you see them come onto screen, and in that first few minutes they've got that very rigid face and they're like, right, we're going to do this. And within moments, most of the time, you see them kind of relax and go, hang on, you really do get this. You're not going to judge me for the random things I'm about to tell you. I'm like, no, there's no judgment here. And I quite often share a little bit about what my background is. I'm shy to. And I'm like, I'm not doing it for your sympathy from the client or anything like that. I'm just doing it to go, I get it. I've lived it. There is absolutely nothing you could tell me that would scare me or that would make me go, oh, you strange child.
Yeah.
I obviously still watch Safeguarding and all of that, but it's that understanding that we do understand families aren't that 2 adults, 2 children, fit in a neat box, go to school Monday to Friday. That doesn't work for a SEND family.
SEND family holidays. So let's have a quick chat about holidays, because that's the current buzz in the office. At time of recording, it is just coming up to half term, and we've got a few different types of holidays going off. We've got ones that have managed to get abroad, get away somewhere quiet, and then we've got others that are going away abroad with their children. And we've got some that are just popping off, you know, across down the country to somewhere nice, maybe to the beach. What I wanted to bring it back to is how difficult it is as a SEND parent to book a holiday and find somewhere that is appropriate and works for your family. If you've got a larger family or a smaller family, for SEND, there's just not that many options.
Nope. And we get it wrong before we get it right.
Yes.
You know, we've all had the holidays. You know, one of my children, she turned teenager. She really wanted to celebrate with just the family. She didn't want to do the whole big party thing, which we'd always done before and got it wrong. And she said she wanted to go to just Disney Paris. We went. She had a great time, but it was a total overwhelm, absolute explosion when we got back. Huge safeguarding issues. Police were called. Social services were called. Yes, it was a lovely experience whilst we were there, but then, you know, when you come back and you try and weigh it up and you're like, I'm never doing that again. She was so dysregulated, and it's getting it wrong like that before you realize you have to how to get it right. And for us, it was separating everybody up. So she needed a separate holiday with just me. And that's expensive then, because you're doing 2 lots of holidays all the time. But it's the only way we could make it work.
And fitting it into term times as well, because of the fines, making it very difficult. Trying to fit all of that into a very short space of time is hard.
We did it very differently. We were lucky that we had family and friends all over the world when my kids were really little. So we used to always go and stay with family. So at least we had a home from home. So that worked really well. My best friend lived in the States for several years, so we used to go to hers. As they've got bigger, I've admitted that actually to meet their needs, I can't take them away on my own. So we now go to the even more extent of we take a carer with us. So we did Disneyland America in 2023. I think that was the right year. But we took a carer, and that was expensive, you know, an extra flight, an extra accommodation, they need their own room, food, all of it, plus their time. But for me, it was the only way I could manage the holiday with all 3 of them. And it did mean that it was a skilled person who knew their needs, who'd worked with us as a family for years and years. The kids knew them and were happy with them. But that's massive. That's a massive expense.
Yeah.
But actually, for us, it was the only way to do it. And I was like, I'd rather forego a holiday a different year in order to have 1 that works than to have 2 that go very badly.
Looking for expert guidance in the world of special educational needs and disabilities? SEND. Sunshine Academy is your one-stop solution. Gain access to a wealth of knowledge through webinars covering topics like autism and dyslexia, along with tailored learning resources, all for just $10.99 a month. Empower yourself today with Sunshine Academy and take the first step towards a brighter future.
My husband and I have just ended up saying it's not worth it. I'm not going to bother taking them this year. We're not going to bother going on holiday. It's just not worth it. Why are we doing it? Are we doing it to keep up with society? Are we doing it because everybody's doing it on social media? We went for about 6 years with no holiday because we knew it would, number one, we needed to save the money for our legal fees. But number two, is just we just couldn't cope with it. What was the point in putting us through that stress for what? To say that we've gone on holiday? 1 year, because it was really inaccessible for a number of reasons to go on holiday, we created a bit of seaside in our garden. So we did the whole paddling pool thing, but we also had a sand pit, and we were like, okay, it's not quite the beach, but the kids were quite little, so it worked. And then we just went really crafty, and we created a glow-in-the-dark bowling alley on the grass with bottles of water that we put glow sticks in. So at night time, it lit up the water in the bottles of water. And the girls, they made something to throw at these bottles of water to knock them down. And we also had a blindfold and a cricket bat. Bear with me. And water bombs hanging from some kind of structure. And the kids, with a lot of supervision, of course, had to wear the blindfold and try and smash this water bomb so that it exploded all over them. It was great fun, and they were tiny. And do you know what? They remember that, but they don't remember going to the seaside for a fun fair. That to them that's not stored in their memory bank. So the things that they remember are not the big things that we think we have to provide. So I think sometimes just taking it back to basics and don't bother looking at social media, because nobody's having that much fun anyway. They're all just parenting with less resources, like you said, in a different country, in enormous heat. Everybody's got a sensory overload, whether they're spicy or not. Nobody's having the fun that is portrayed on the social media pictures.
Social media is only ever someone's edited highlights. You don't see what's on the cutting room floor, do you? How many of us have gone to post something on Facebook or on Instagram and have scrolled past the rubbish pictures or the bits, and it's always just edited highlights. And I am one of those parents that goes, actually, over the summer, I'm just not going to look. I'm not going to look. I come off it for a few weeks. I give myself that permission to have a break. Because actually it doesn't help me. It doesn't do my mental health any good. It doesn't do my kids' health any good. I'm like, what is the point? We're all happy. You do you kind of thing. If it works for your family, great. But then if you look at my background, friends of mine would go, but your kids have been to Thailand and they've been to America and they've been to South Africa. I'm like, but yeah, when you look at why we went, my mum lived there. That was where my ex-husband's family lived, and that's where my best friend lived. It was very safe places. It wasn't that we were going to a hotel and trying to manage meal times in a restaurant. We were doing it in someone's house where when he woke up at 4 a.m. with jet lag, I could go and make Marmite on toast and not care. So it's about doing it in a way that's manageable for you.
And removing that guilt, removing that parental guilt. Such a big thing for quite a lot of people, and it's hard to let go of. It's been a learning curve for me over the years, definitely, to just be like, do you know what? It's really lovely that some people can do that with their families. That's not possible for us right now. And that's okay. I'm well adjusted.
I think it comes from having older kids. All three of us have got children who are outside of the children's services age, if you know what I mean. And you do get a bit long in the tooth, because with the first one, it's different. It's different on so many levels, and I could have a whole podcast just on that. But by the time you get to 10 years later, I had 9 years between my first two, and I felt like I was doing it all again, but with loads of knowledge and resources and stuff up here. Great. And that I don't care what people think. This is the way I'm doing it. So it does remove it, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And my old's 23 next month. Not next month after. I don't know where I am in the year at the moment.
There's so many kids. It's like, whatever. I've got one in every year.
Run through all their names before getting to the one that I actually want to yell at. But they popped home a couple of days ago and sat and talked about their childhood, and I was like, wow, we like I said, we went to Disneyland Florida and you only remember the one day you got sunburnt. That's but when we went to Skeggy,
what they remember. Mine, it's all about the snacks. Normally they remember the snacks that they had. Who remembers being given beans on toast? What?
But that's the bits that stick because they had the connection with you at that point. You know, they don't remember the bigger stuff. They don't care. But you think back to your childhood, you don't remember the big stuff. You remember how it made you feel, not what you got. I couldn't tell you what I had for Christmas, apart from the year that I asked for a bike and I was so desperate for a bike because they were doing the proficiency tests and I wanted this cool bike for my proficiency test. That's the only Christmas present I can remember. Everything else was just about the feeling and how lovely it was.
Yeah, I think it's and you can make those feelings anywhere and you can do them anytime. I think one of my children's favouriteest things is to throw all the water balloons from and see if they can get them in the paddling pool. You know, like launching them and target practicing, like you say about the bowling, those silly games that we don't normally let them play, that they come up with, and just allowing them to be children. You know, colouring during COVID, colouring on the pavements, all those things, being allowed to paint pictures on the windows, all the things that we would have normally gone, no, you can't do that. Just letting them get on with it and go, just do it.
And I've carried on with all of that. It's funny because people come to visit me and we're in a cul-de-sac, and our cul-de-sac is constantly covered in chalk because our girls and the girls next door are very similar in age. And during COVID, that's what they did. They coloured their bit, we coloured our bit, and then it's just carried on. So it's just become a thing. Our cul-de-sac has never got tarmac on the floor. That was chalk.
But how lovely. And that's memories they'll take forward, and they don't have to be expensive. They don't have to be big. They just have to be things that they enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. And we will end there today. So thank you for both of your time, as always. I feel like we've covered a lot today.
Yeah, we have covered a lot, but I don't know whether I'm thinking that we've covered more because I could then start to remember some bits from before. And I was like, oh, that was a good bit. We'll add that in from before. But then I'm like, have I missed some thinking that I've covered it? Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
I've ticked all the things on my list anyway.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So thank you, both of you. You're on your super busy days.
So that's all from us today. If you are tuning in to the shorter version and want to hear more from us, then join us on the Sunshine Academy. You can find that over at www.sunshine-support.org/academy. If you need our support, we have a variety of ways you can get in touch with us. You can head over to our website, www.sunshine-support.org, or alternatively, find us on social media. If you are tuning in via the Sunshine Academy, then head over to our community area where you can ask questions and just generally chat. And also don't forget we have monthly Ask Me Anythings with our advocates. So thank you for joining us today. We'll see you soon.